Who is the Buddha? What did the Buddha have to express on contentment, on this amazing truth that the Buddha shared called Tendrela? Buddha nature. Would Rinpoche be so kind as to share with us what we are to understand from the statement that all sentient beings possess the Buddha nature, in Shunyata and in English emptiness? Is there a shortcut to nirvana? Doctor, now speaking about GNH and the H in GNH, happiness.
Yes.
If Doctor can share something with us about happiness, what is happiness to Doctor?
Well, if I may, I would like to speak first about unhappiness, about suffering.
Please do.
Because, as we know, Buddha's teaching starts with suffering. And I believe that if we don't understand the nature of suffering, then we cannot gain true happiness. So I don't want to become too philosophical about that. But just looking at the situation of our world, I would say I see three fundamental sources of unhappiness. Because of the lifestyle and the materialism and the speed and all that, most people have become disconnected from themselves. They don't have time to look inwards, to take time to reflect, to really ask themselves what is truly important and things like that. So one is chasing away, like rat race, earn more, work more, buy more, consume more, throw more, and so on and so forth. So people have become disconnected from themselves. And that's the first great source of suffering. And you could, from a Buddhist point of view, you'd say it's ignorance. Not knowing yourself is the ultimate ignorance. Not knowing this book or that book, that's secondary ignorance. But not knowing yourself, that's primary ignorance. Because of this ignorance of themselves, this disconnect, people feel actually unease. They don't feel really well, although they might have everything they want. Especially I've lived in Switzerland, in rich countries, people have everything they want. But they feel unease, there's something missing, constantly something missing. And then, advertising and so tells them, buy this, buy that, then you will be happy. No. So they buy it, and it doesn't really last very long, right? New iPhone, new car, new this, new that. You're happy for a few days, and then it's not new anymore. And, So anyway, so this creates a kind of greed, disconnection. With yourself creates a greed. And this greed creates competition, because each one wants to have more than its fair share. So the others becomes competitor, which is the basis of modern economy, competition and profit, right? And this disconnects us from one another. So instead of, having a compassionate, caring society, we have a competitive society where you have to be stronger, richer, faster, whatever than the others. More famous, more whatever. So that's the second disconnection. And that's connected with greed. And greed gives rise to violence. And because, if the other are in competition with me, then we can start fighting. So the three poison of the mind, ignorance, greed, and hatred. And this we observe in our relationship not only with one another, but with nature. This is why we're destroying nature. So these are the three big disconnects. Disconnect from ourselves, disconnects from one another, disconnected from nature. Now, what is happiness? Happiness is living in harmony with oneself, knowing oneself, living in harmony with one another. So experiencing the others as our fellow sentient beings, brothers and sisters, including non-human, and living in harmony with nature. So for me, happiness is really rooted in these three harmonies: with oneself, with one another, society, other human beings, and with nature.
It can't be more different, Doctor. Doctor spoke to us about happiness, but now the national happiness, the gross national happiness. If we would like to hear from Doctor, what is gross national happiness to you, and how does it inspire you? Anything related to gross national happiness in Doctor's words?
Well, for me, what I've just shared about my understanding of happiness is actually, when you take that seriously, you realize that happiness can not only be an individual